What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. And today, unfortunately, we have to bring you an injury roundup on this special edition of Niners News. Matt, Sunday was brutal. It was extremely brutal. It's hard to even feel happy coming out of that win. Obviously, Nick Bosa is the biggest injury, and he's going to be out for the year. What are some other big injuries you think the 49ers are going to have to overcome?
Well, first and foremost, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to miss at least this week, maybe more, depending on how he feels. Anytime a team loses their starting quarterback, it's going to be big trouble going forward, especially for the offensive side of the ball. The only thing that we can hope is that Nick Mullins has been in this system for a long time, and they're coming up against a very weak Giants team who just had a huge injury themselves in the form of Saquon Barkley, who tore his ACL as well. So, it's a high ankle sprain. Hopefully he'll be back. Hopefully it won't be too long before he comes back. I'm predicting that they're just going to hold him off from the turf and not rush him out there. I know that they're saying there's a chance that he could play, but at this point, with so many players being so upset about that turf, I just don't think that you should risk it. It's a fairly weak opponent, and it's not saying that you're punting on the game at all, but they're beatable even with Nick Mullins at quarterback. So I say rest Jimmy. They're not going to let George Kittle come back this week, so he's still going to be out. We're going to be missing Raheem Mostert, too, is another big one with an MCL sprain. Fortunately, that doesn't seem to be too serious, so he might just miss a game or two. And, there's a lot of other, missing pieces. It just seems like it was a freaky day in the NFL for injuries, and especially in 49ers Jets. It just seemed every other play somebody was falling down. It'd be like Solomon Thomas right after Nick Bosa. I think it was like 2 plays later, actually. Yeah. Like they had just taken the cart back, and it's like, well, I hope they don't shove Nick Bosa off the cart to go back out for Solomon Thomas. But so for me, the biggest loss is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, because we have depth at the defensive line position. They just signed Ziggy Ansah to kind of come in and do some things. But, we're missing Bosa. We're missing Ford, who has a neck back something injury. Who knows? There's some silly speculation out there that he's going to retire. I don't know where that came from, but, people like to make stuff up. So might want to check your sources on that. But, the team can do well enough to get by the Giants. Then you have a home game against the struggling Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has regressed majorly. So, and then at that point, you're going to be looking at reinforcements coming. Maybe Jimmy's back for that game. Kittle will probably be back for that game. Who knows what's up with D Ford? Again, barring his sudden retirement, I don't know. We don't even know what the injury is. So, there's a chance he could come back. Richard Sherman is eligible to come back the week afterwards. Deebo Samuel should be back for that Eagles game too, by the way. So the reinforcements are coming. You just have to hold down the fort in the meantime.
Yeah, going back to that Sunday's game against the Jets, it was like almost comical. And it's never funny, obviously, when somebody gets injured, but it's like you can't make. I think I tweeted out 3 or 4 times. You can't make it up how often both teams' players were falling on the ground, grabbing at their knees, and the whole story that came out of Sunday was the turf is unfit to play on. And the 49ers came out saying that it was sticky and spongy and that it was new turf that nobody had played on. And then I saw some also other reports that the previous week, the Giants had played on it before. So I don't know, man. But the NFL within like 12 hours came out saying, nope, field is good to go. We cleared it. And it kind of makes you think how much work or how in-depth that review was of the field. But they seem like they're pretty confident that it's good to go. So the 49ers, unfortunately, have to go back there this Sunday, like you said, against the Giants, because they do share a stadium. But it was tough. I saw Cam Inman of San Jose Mercury tweeted out kind of that pick a square bingo of the 49ers injured star. And it's almost it's scary how accurate it is. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Bosa, D Ford, Raheem Mostert, Deebo, George, Sherm, Solly, Coleman. It's like, Jesus Christ. And you spoke about D Ford there, and he came into this week with neck spasms, and he was listed as questionable. And then come game day, he was held out suddenly, and it was like, throughout the week, it was kind of saying, no worries, it's not too serious. It's just some neck spasms. And now it's being reported that it's kind of transitioned into a back injury, like you said. Is that something you're concerned about? Because those are 2 major parts of the body that you don't want to kind of mess around with injury-wise.
Right. The neck spasms thing just tells me that something else is irritated, and so it's referred pain going up to his neck. Maybe he has a pinched nerve or something between his shoulder blades. It wouldn't be something like a lower back injury. I think we're talking when you say back, people think automatically go to lower back, but I'm thinking that it's probably upper back, somewhere in the thoracic spine. So maybe he just got bent a little weird. He could have slept funny. I mean, those things happen. It's just one of those unfortunate things that if you've ever kinked your neck or kinked in between your shoulder blades, you know that it's a while before it feels right. And now you're talking about for a top level athlete. So they would come out and say if there was anything structural. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more of a soft tissue thing, maybe a nerve thing. So it's just going to be touch and go until he feels good at that point. So until then, you don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, it's scary because hopefully it's nothing serious, but it's scary in the sense that we're already without Nick Bosa. And I tweeted in our group chat, or I said in our group chat, not tweeted earlier, that, the strength of this defensive line was, held down mainly by Nick Bosa and D Ford on both sides of the line. And now potentially they're both gone for extended periods of time. They did sign Ziggy Ansah, like you said, so they do have some sort of a backup plan there. But man, injuries just keep biting this team on the butt, and it's only week 2. I mean, we just got through week 2 going into week 3 now, and I hope the only promising thing is that not all of them are season ending. Only a couple of them are season ending, so that's promising.
Yeah, the really important one is going to be Bosa. As much as people don't want to hear it, Solomon Thomas has played his last down for the 49ers. He's not going to be back. He is probably, right up there with AJ Jenkins as the biggest bust in 49ers history. You talk about a guy who was picked 3 overall and has not produced. He's been a rotational guy at best, and that is not good enough in any way, stretch, or form. So I expect him to be gone, but that opens the door. Again, Ziggy Ansah is going to be the guy that you hope can replace some of Bosa's production. As far as the other guys, D Ford and Solomon Thomas, you look at Kerry Hyder, Contavious Street, DJ Jones, Javon Kinlaw. The strength of this team is still the depth that they have at defensive line. And even if those guys aren't necessarily world beaters, they have enough depth that if you rotate them, they can stay fairly fresh, barring, the Lamar Jacksons and the Kyler Murrays of the world. And so you're hoping that they can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. We still have a stellar linebacking core. I didn't see too much about Dre Greenlaw. I know he went down with an injury, but I didn't hear about him. I don't know if you've heard, but even him aside, they're still pretty good. So Ahkello Witherspoon didn't do horribly. He didn't do great. Mosley recovered nicely from the beating that DeAndre Hopkins put on him. So you hope that going forward that they're going to be okay. And then you look, K1, Jimmy Ward, and Jaquiski Tart are just stalwarts back there. So, they're going to give you what they can. So, again, weak Giants team with no Saquon Barkley. They picked up Devontae Freeman off the trash heap, and they're going to throw it back there. But Saquon Barkley wasn't finding holes, so I doubt Freeman will. It's a very winnable game, and then you go against a struggling Eagles team. Then you get the Miami Dolphins, who will play tough, but really aren't that talented. And all of a sudden, you have winnable games, and reinforcements come in, and then you're right back in the thick of it for the playoff run. No team season. I know some fans were coming out and saying, like, that's it, the Super Bowl thing is over. First of all, it's really hard to get back to a Super Bowl. The goal here really is to try to compete for the division, make the playoffs. There's an extra spot this year. And beyond that, if one guy a Super Bowl makes, you're not really a Super Bowl contender. Especially, even somebody as great as Nick Bosa, he's a defensive lineman. Guys lose linemen all the time. If that's what's going to kill your season, then why, are you really that good to begin with?
That's a good question because, like you said, a lot of people were writing the season off. They were saying, just, throw it away. So much for a revenge tour. And look, I will say, temper your expectations. It's not going to be 14-2, going forward, or 15-1, whatever the case is. But the 49ers are still a very good team. The whole thing we've been saying this offseason is they have the majority of starters, most of their coaches coming back from their Super Bowl run, and that's huge. So minus a few key pieces, sure, it's a big loss, especially Bosa. But I think if any team can overcome that, just like Fred Warner said, it's this team. And speaking of Dre Greenlaw, his update today or yesterday from Kyle Shanahan was that it was a thigh contusion, but he didn't
Okay, so
sound
he's gonna play.
too
He's gonna play
concerned.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah, thigh contusion, he's going to play. So
yeah,
that's good news for Dre Greenlaw. Yeah, going forward, I mean, they have a gauntlet on the back half of the season for sure. After that Miami game, it's going to get really tough. But again, that Miami game, Sherman's eligible to come back. Debo should be back. You know, Jimmy will probably be back by then. So you're looking at reinforcements coming. Don't give up hope yet. This team is still right in the thick of it for contention.
exactly. So I'm not giving up hope. Like you said, I think they still have a good shot. Most of their key players are coming back in a few weeks. And we talked about this on our post game live that we're, even though they keep saying Jimmy might return next week, he's not returning next week. He's not going back to that same turf. He'll likely be back week 4. But yeah, I think that's going to do it, Matt. Any other updates you want to throw in there before we top this off?
No, man, like everything's going to be touch and go. But again, when you think about it, if Jimmy can come back and he looked really good before he went out, I mean, just think about who's coming back. Debo Samuel to pair with Ayuk, to pair with George Kittle, who's probably returning, to pair with Jordan Reed, who just broke out. Now all of a sudden, Kendrick Bourne and Trent Taylor, and maybe even somebody as skittish as Dante Pettis is going to find holes in the defense because you have so many other guys to focus on. Again, even without Nick Bosa, when you look at the offensive weapons, especially if they can come back and gel, you're looking at a team that's going to really score points. So the loss of Nick Bosa, while it hurts, doesn't necessarily disqualify this team from being a Super Bowl contender going forward.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Niners News. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video and share this video. Get those injury updates out there to everyone.
Go ahead and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video. And until next time, go Niners.